Good afternoon, and welcome to the City of Helena City Commission Administrative Meeting, August 21st, 2024, 4 p.m. This meeting is called to order. Madam Clerk.
City Attorney Doctor here. City Manager Burton
Here.
Commissioner D here. Commissioner Logan
Here.
Commissioner Sherwood
Here.
Mayor Collins
Here.
And for the record, Mayor Collins, Commissioner Reed is excused.
Correct. Welcome and thank you for participating in the City of Helena City Commission meeting. We are pleased to be able to provide this alternative meeting format in the city's effort to broaden public participation. Please be patient as we may experience technical difficulties during the meeting. We welcome your public commentary. Please read the following tips and guidelines for the app usage. Commissioners, any comments?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to make a quick comment of congratulations to Commissioner Dean and her new fiancé Matt on their recent engagement.
A secret, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Too late.
No one told me.
He's giving you a hard time.
All right.
Congratulations.
Recommendations from Helena Citizens Council, Representative Andrew, you have the floor.
Just a quick general business items through community development. Will be engaged as a council with the upcoming planning commission meetings, making sure we have a representative sitting in along with being also engaged with DMPO through the same. And just to give you a heads up for our September meeting, we're going to do an open house at the Civic Center. That'll be September 25th. Open house will be before our general meeting. So if mayor, commission, or city manager want to walk in and spend a few minutes, that's available. Thank you. Yep.
You done, sir?
I am. Thank you. Sorry.
City managers report. We have nothing to report this evening. Presentations. Community aid grant update. Rocky Mountain Development Council, grant administrator, Opus. So we have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. This is a continuation of the presentations that we had at the last administrative meeting. So we reached out to all agencies that received funding through the community aid grant program, and the Rocky Mountain Development Council unfortunately wasn't able to be with us last week, but they're here today. So Liz, would like to start?
Well, I wish we had more to report.
You've been set at the table.
Okay, I'll come up. Yeah, so since we've been awarded funds, as everybody knows, is all of the costs have skyrocketed. So we're still in basically negotiations, trying to figure out how to buy the land. And I mean, we have the money to buy the land, but how to make sure it's feasible. So we're still doing our due diligence. So we haven't really made progress. We've had an appraisal done and we've had some back and forth with the buy sell. And our cost of construction went from the original budget of $190 a foot to like $260 to $270 a foot. Yeah. So it's creating, so we're trying to make sure that we have all our due diligence done, because we don't want to end up in a spot where we are halfway done with the project. So do you have anything to add, Lori?
No, just in addition to the cost of building the project, we are looking at what it's going to cost to do the road, the Horseshoe Bend Road, because we realize that's a big part of the site development and pre-building phase. So.
And we've anticipated, I think it's about $500,000 more than our original budget based on current numbers. So it's been, like I said, these projects are getting harder and harder to build. So because the funding sources have kind of stayed the same at the federal level. So that's what we're working on. We're just trying to kind of go back to the drawing board and figure out a way to make this feasible. So we haven't spent any money. I mean, we've spent $3,700 on a appraisal, but we have not drawn any city funds for it. So that's where we are. So,
Thank you, ma'am. Any comments or questions for Administrator Opitz or Dr. Miller?
Mr. Mayor, for Governmental Council, have you, I guess, moving forward, are you thinking about like planning it in phases? Cause I mean, obviously, I think it was at 30 million total was the thought, and obviously with things fluctuating that.
yeah, that's part of it. We're kind of trying to think of a lot of different ways and potentially come back and maybe build market to help subsidize affordable, and kind of waiting to see what interest rates do, because that's a huge interest. That's the other thing I didn't say. Interest rates went up a couple points from the time we did the original budget, which equates to hundreds of thousands of dollars on these construction loans. So yeah, a phased approach is one idea, or like I said, a market, maybe adding more market apartments to help supplement and kind of created more of a diverse income neighborhood. So yeah, there's a idea, I'd say.
One other thing, I know that hopefully we'll have, with the common housing authority repositioning, we're doing a market rent, fair market rent study, so that those vouchers could be increased. Is that something you all, I mean, are those folks that you would be looking at renting to so that you could capture a greater revenue amount?
Oh, yeah, we would definitely accept that. And generally, with the developments we build, our rents usually fall within that fair market, where it doesn't, usually the fair market rents, I don't know, I haven't done the math in a little while, but I mean, all of our other properties we have, it fits in there anyway, so we're able to do that, so.
Any comments or questions for Opitz or Rocky Mountain? Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For Rocky Mountain Development Council, with regards to the Horseshoe Bend Road, do we have a cost estimate on that, or do we know a time frame on that at all, or what's the latest on that? I guess I might have missed that.
Okay, our rough estimate based on just kind of a per foot price and what we've spent on other projects is about 1.545 million. And that includes a 20% contingency. So.
And then the cost for the road, the cost for that Horseshoe Bend Road, is that included in that?
That's the cost of the road. Just
Understood. Okay, thanks.
It's like we budgeted about $550 a linear foot, and then added in the intersection. So that is, yeah, about $500,000 more than originally planned, just based on, yeah, so.
Administrator Opitz, are you done with your presentation?
That's everything, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Increase loan limit to a water and wastewater service line loan program. Director Leland, you have to give from 15,000 to 30,000.
Thank you, Mayor, Commission. This is the service line loan program that we've come forward several times, and we have cut back how much we put in, and then we sunsetted it, so we are not collecting any more money. Some of the programs with, as they stated, the cost of everything in construction is going up. And so it's come up is some of these projects where the water line may be on the other side of the road. So you have to go all the way across the road and dig up all the pavement or go underneath a retaining wall where you have to dig it up and you can't pull it. There are issues. We've had a few of them that go over the 15,000. So it is one to have a little more of a security blanket for them or a safety net for the homeowner to have the loan go up to 30,000. How many that is probably a handful out of the 60 that we have so far, just because the loan, we were just getting amounts of $15,000, and we don't know if it was 15,000 was truly the amount or if it truly was much higher than that. So we're guessing that there's around 12 to 15 that could have benefited from this. And all it will do is probably, if we get a big run on the 30,000, it could shorten the time frame that we'd have to have discussions of either getting rid of the program or having to increase a fund from basically 60 years down to possibly 50 years. So, and those are, really swag numbers. So right now we don't see any real big impact to either fund.
Thank you. Comments or questions? Do we have any public comments on this? Okay, Director Leland, Department reports, establish a fund to pay for residential water service lines within public right of way.
This sort of goes along the same lines, if I can get this share screen. Share. All right, staff was asked to look, this goes along the same lines as the service line program, is that the request is to look if the city would take over ownership or jurisdiction or set up a fund, what we could look at, what other cities do as far as service lines, residential service lines, water, we're only talking about right now, water service lines, so taking them over within the right of way. It is most cost, it's the costliest part of a majority of every single service lines. It can be unfair because as you look, this is the sewer. We run down in the middle of the line, in the middle of the road, so that we can gravity everything into it. So with that, we have to offset to one side or the other is the water line. So if on this picture, if you happen to be in 121 there, you would have to pay more than someone in 106. So that was a request. So we took a look at it. This is another one. You can just see one side of the properties is taken on and go forward.
And if I may, right now, the ordinance requires that if the residential service line breaks, the resident has the responsibility to the water.
I jumped in a little too quick on that, so thank you.
And so this is a preliminary discussion on whether the commission wants to consider making a change to where, where you turn
The curb box.
The curb box would then be a potential, which is not in the street. But if that were then to be the case, then the city would take over the repair in the street. Conceptually speaking, we certainly don't expect any decisions today, but we're laying the groundwork for a policy discussion with the commission.
Okay. And it would be a straw poll, and thank you for framing it a little bit better. But yeah, it'd be from the curb box to the main. Right now, it is the homeowner's responsibility to be able to take care of it, and they have to replace it if anything happens and dig it up. So the discussion would be in a straw poll to see is there interest to dive deeper into looking at what a program or a service would be to take this over. There are certain things that we'd look at as frozen service lines. Probably all would come to the City of Helena because you can't tell, was it the curb box, what side of the curb box it was frozen on. So that's where it would come in. So we take them into consideration. But this is just a straw poll. We had a conceptual analysis because wanted to come forward of what really would it look like to come to here. So you have a little more to take a bite out of. Is we're estimating about 60. When we look at it, there's about 60 water main breaks or frozen service lines within the City of Helena annually. We have 20 service main breaks a year. So these are relatively the same. You still have to dig them up. You have to replace them. It's a little less with the service line than a big main, especially some of our 24 or 46 looking at it, but it would be substantial. We're looking at 2.5 FTEs. We would have to have one of those FTEs would be a half-time plumber because by city code, which I agree 100% with, is we need a plumber to do those service lines. We don't want to get the contractor fly by night. So by city code, we have to have a plumber to connect them. We'd figure it's a half a FTE. We need a mini excavator because you get into tighter situations because the service lines go into the boulevards and trees and stuff. And a dump truck, just a smaller dump truck to be able to take care of stuff. So these are very, very high level conceptual, just so you can wrap your head around it. It would come to about $200 to $250 a month per resident per month. And then if we farmed it all out based on what we're getting with the service line programs and other things that we do through the year with working with private, you would look at 325 to 350 a month to be able to fund this. And it would be, we're proposing, or just one thought is to have a fund, or we could put it in and it'd be rate, but we just do an equivalent rate. So you'd be looking at about, $25 a month or a year per resident to take care of this until we have better data. Then looking, this is how the other cities do that. A lot of them have loan programs such as we do, such as Missoula, Butte have loan programs. Billings has a fund that was set up back in the 90s and have not been raised, but they take care of everything and pay for the curb box to the main. So they have a fund of kind of what we're looking at. Belgrade and Bozeman, they take care of the curb box to the main, and then Butte, Great Falls, Missoula, and Kalispell are like our ordinance, where it is the homeowner's responsibility to take care of the whole service line from the house to the main. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Comments or questions? Go ahead, Commissioner.
Question, thank you. So the $2.50, how is that? How does that get paid for? Is it on the utility bill?
Mayor, Commissioner, there's two ways we could do it. We could just raise the water rates, and it just is incorporated into the overall water fund, and it's just our responsibility to be able to fund that. So it'd be on the utility bill, or it would be its own separate fund so we could manage it a little bit better. But that would be on the utility bill.
So I guess a comment I would have would be, I mean, it certainly makes sense. And I think it's done in a lot of communities across the country that the city owns that infrastructure from the per box to the main. That seems like reasonable and consistent with the way other communities do it. The difficulty I have is the fee, and that being, as I've expressed before, like for the water line, the service line repair loan program, when it was originally envisioned, there was a fee attached to the utility bill, and customers paid that. And when in the position that they were then, where we are now, the city attorney, I'll just read his comments, reported that the commission has expressed a desire to fund a new water and wastewater service line replacement program through an assessment of a flat fee on properties that may potentially utilize the program. To determine the applicable legal requirements, it is important, and this was in 2018, it is important to determine whether such a fee would be considered a tax or an assessment. The distinction is important because if the proposed fee is deemed to be a tax, then the city is required to put the proposed fee up for an election, since at that time the city had reached its allowable maximum number of mills imposed without an election. I would also go so far as to add, if the charter probably requires it, because if this is a tax, it's a new one, and the charter on page 1 indicates that there shall be no new taxes except they're put to the voters. So then he summarizes the discussion that follows. A tax is generally any fee imposed to collect revenue to fund general government operations. An assessment is any fee that is imposed to offset the cost of a special benefit provided to a particular piece of property that is not shared by the general taxpayer and which is commensurate with the cost of any such benefit. So the reason I bring that up is, if I pay that $2.50 a month and I live in my house for 30 years and nothing ever goes wrong with that service line, I paid a charge and have gotten no benefit out of it. And in my mind, it is a tax. And I would say, if you want to call it a tax and put it to the voters, I'm all for it. But I don't know, I'm gonna struggle with the idea of just tacking a fee on like we did with the service line repair program in 2018. Billings, within the last couple of years, lost a class action lawsuit because they had added a fee to their water bill. And the deal is, you can do it, the city can do it, but force a resident or a citizen, you have to legally challenge it, which, as you can imagine, is going to be pretty costly to challenge. And so it probably, in many cases, goes on unchallenged, even though maybe they were right. But in any case, I'm going to have I guess to sum it up, I'm going to have a hard time getting behind this as we continue to discuss it.
Attorney Doctor,
Yes, Mayor,
going back to the seeing stuff.
we
I
have,
know we had a discussion over and over again, so please reiterate that decision.
thank you, Mayor, Commissioner Logan. We've talked about this a number of times. We have, I haven't specifically honestly looked at this one in particular. But we have looked at several of our other assessments and fees to assure ourselves that we aren't taxing without the opportunity to, through the law that Commissioner Logan is referring to. I don't see a lot of difference between this one and the ones we've looked at, but I wouldn't want to say it without having looked at it. But in those cases, we were challenged through a district court action, one that's actually still ongoing, and we were told, at least on that question, whether or not we were doing a tax or a fee, that we weren't taxing and that law didn't apply. That was in a different circumstance, but again, I haven't looked at this one in particular in order to confidently say that I would classify it the same way. But we have looked into this, and I am comfortable with some of the other ones, and that we aren't going to get into the circumstance that Commissioner Logan is talking about and referring to.
Would you please look into it?
Of course,
Thank you.
I will.
And that's what I would say, Mayor. If you want to proceed with the future policy discussion, refining the broad concepts today, we would certainly look into whether it's a tax or a fee. I will say that if it's a fee, which I believe this is, doesn't mean you get to use it. All you need to have is the ability to use it if you need it. Same with driving on the streets, which are an assessment. We may not have to repair the street in front of your house, but you get to use all the streets throughout the city. We haven't looked at this particular issue on a legal basis, but the concept's the same. And if you want to pursue further policy discussion, we can actually do it's legal.
Thanks, Mayor. So a couple things. First, grateful that we are considering the upping to $30,000 for the loan and moving the responsibility of the city to be from the curb box to the main. I think one of the things that I would be interested in seeing as we continue to talk about this is if we can see the breakdown between what the street repair is compared to the actual line repair, because I think that's a significant piece of that expense. And I don't know if that, we might be splitting hairs, but I think having an understanding of what goes into that cost would be helpful. And really, the thing that adds up for residents in a lot of circumstances is that street repair, especially if you're all the way on the other side. I think the fact that this happens to, at least 60 people a year on average is significant. Most people don't have, $10,000 to $20,000 sitting around to be able to address an emergency like this, which is why we have the loan program, but, if you can avoid getting $25,000 in debt because, you know, I think it's fair that what is in the city right of way is the responsibility of the city. And so I'm fully in favor of moving forward in this discussion, and finding a fair solution, because it is a significant cost to individuals who this happens to, and half of which is happening in the city right away. I will be interested how this conversation continues, especially when it comes to the funding piece, when we start talking about like lead service line replacement too, because so many of these are lead. Well, we don't know how many. We're trying to find out how many are, but I anticipate, given the age of some of our infrastructure and neighborhoods, it could be a fair amount. And so I think that's something that, you know, we are already going to need to think about how do we address this type of infrastructure. And I think this is a really good starting point and something that improves the fairness for homeowners, and ensures that we have some stability in our budget moving forward as well.
There's any other comments? Do we have any public comments on this topic? All right, to Lee, man, I see you're still on my agenda.
Sorry about that, Mayor.
Please go into water and sewer cost reimbursement update. You have the floor.
All right, this is just to give. They're both the same. Anyway, so we won't have a PowerPoint on this one, but this is to talk about the West Side project, phase 1 and phase 2, where we put in water and sewer over to the newly annexed area over on the west side of Helena from Joslin all the way back to the old city limits. That was back in looking, you know, early, what was it, 17, I think it was. Anyway, that was the first phase. Second phase is over by Kessler School. We put the water projects in. We've talked about it. It's $8.3 million is what we put in. This is a reimbursement to be able to, as people are connected, to be able to get reimbursed for the money that we put forward. We are looking at around $83 for the water. You're looking at let's see, go through for phase 1. You're going to be looking at $77 a square foot for the building or for the lot. For the water, 82 cents for the sewer, and then 75 for trench restoration. And the big update there is we've gone from 86 cents to 82 cents. We went, after last time we talked to the commission, went and reanalyzed everything, and we came up 4 cents cheaper per square foot. So that was a big issue. Everything else we've double checked, and that's why it's taken so long. And then so for phase 2, we've are the same. It's $1 for the water, $1.19 for the sewer, and 58 cents. And then the other part that we added to the resolution that is new from what we came forward with after talking to commission is adding a 5% admin fee for the loans. With this resolution, for anyone that has already an existing house, not new construction, but an existing house, to connect to the City of Helena, they'll have to pay the reimbursement. And if they connect within the first 5 years, they can get a 0% loan for 20 years for whenever they connect. But we put a 5% admin fee on top of this. This is the first time we have done this for any of these loan programs that are out there. But just wanted to give you an update, and I want to get these resolutions on and finished so we can start getting people to build out there and connect and know exactly what they have to pay. And as you can see in your packet, we have broken it down by every single lot that exists out there, what they have to pay. So it isn't a guessing. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Questions from the commission, please.
So I may have missed this. What has been your public engagement on this? It's kind of the first, I mean, is this the first blush or?
Mayor Commissioner, no, this isn't the first blush. We've gone through several public meetings when we were doing the project. Before the project, it went through a lawsuit and a mitigation. We have talked to all the property owners. We actually told them last time of our estimates, we were, instead of say around $3 a square foot, we were up to $3.50. So this is less than any of the public engagement. We have talked to all the new homeowners with this information that, and also any of the biggest one are the title companies and the contractors out there. So we've done everything we can so that the people know that this is coming.
But recently, I mean, has there been any engagement within the last 6 months? Or?
Mayor, Commissioner, no, just because we were trying to refine it. We have not done it in the last 6 months.
What is what is the communication when, I mean, I'm gonna guess there's people who sell the house of their house. And I'm gonna guess there's probably people who have sold since 2018 or 2017. 2017. So what is I mean, when homes go to new owners, what is that communication?
Mayor, Commissioner, the only way we get involved in any of that any conversations with them is if they already have a loan or have signed up that they have waived the right to, and they connected and say that you have to pay this at a future date. That is the only time that we get involved. Other than that, there's really no interaction for a selling of a house.
So it'll just stay with that property.
Mayor, Commissioner, if they are connected, they had to work something out internally for themselves, because the way it'll be set up, if they have a loan, it doesn't carry with the property. It's sold out. It's paid off at the time of the selling. So it isn't the new homeowner. So they would have to work something out internally to be able to do that if they had connected, and we only have a few of them that have not paid everything.
So all the current property owners who are involved would already be well aware because it's on their bill.
Mm-hmm. Yes, as best we can.
Do we have any public comments on this? Madam Clerk, I haven't asked you whether we have any online out there. Mr.
Mayor, I have no public comment online.
Right. Progress report, status of citywide software implementation.
Good department, Mr. Mayor. It's at my golf game. If I look, people think I'm a good golfer. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Ty Weingartner. I'm the ERP project manager for the City of Helena. I know that we're kind of running a little bit over on time. I think what you're really going to be excited about is what Mr. Frank and Mr. Cooley are going to show you an actual demo of the software. So I might go through these slide decks here pretty quick. But what I really wanted to show you, one is where do we start off in 2022 when we started this project? Where we are currently with our timeline. What we have laid in front of us, and then really what we accomplished thus far. That sounds good. You may have seen the slide before. We showed this to the commission back in 2022. And what we wanted to demonstrate was in 2022, our business operations software was lacking. We ran on a almost an obsolete green screen computer. When you think about Oregon Trail green screens, if you're under the age of 50, you've probably never seen one of these before. But this was our major our major system. What that did really, it caused not only training issues, but data was hard to get, it was hard to provide reports to. Not to mention that when we looked at our departments, our business software created us to be in silos, where we had different softwares that wouldn't talk to each other. So we couldn't provide data between one another. It was different modules. It's caused us not to be very efficient. Not to mention that our processes were either non-existent or very manual. An example I love to share was when I submit my timesheet, what I would do, I'd go to Excel, I'd print out a piece of paper, fill it out, give it to my manager, he'd approve it, give it to the payroll specialist, we'd upload it, and pay us for 100. This is not something very similar we had to any other processes. It was very manual. We have data integrity issues. We couldn't pull any information, or it could get lost on the floor in a cabinet somewhere. And the last part is our software was probably non-existent. In today's world, people are used to having information on their phone, having it on the web. We did not have a web presence. Our citizens could not apply for a permit or licensing. They couldn't do any payments. So really, what the commission decided to do, and what the leaders here in this room, is that we wanted to have a new enterprise planning system, a business operating system, so we could be more efficient, we could be more transparent, and we help serve our clients in a modern way. So if you look here at our timeline, I mean, really each of these triangles represents a project within a project, the software module. So the first one, finance. On January of 23, we started the finance, budgeting, accounts payable, accounts receivable, procurement. We finished that project in April of this year. Along that project as well, we had payments. We started in November. Payments is how you take a credit card, how you take a check, how can a system pay for something online. Back in May of 2023, we started the HRM project, which is basically benefits. It's personal actions. Also in May, we started time and attendance, how you spend your time. Also payroll, how you would get paid. And then in June of last year, we started the enterprise permitting and licensing system, or how do you pay for a building permit, projects, and or a business license. Our last project yet to come would be started actually last week in August of this year, and it's anticipated to complete in August of 2025. I'll say that's a little aggressive, but I think a year for that long. So we look at this one ERP project, roughly 6, maybe 7 small projects within them. I think it's important to call out that really, as of right now, as a project, we are under budget, which I think is a huge investment to the team. Our timeline expanded. So I'll tell you why here in the next slide. But we saw these savings by, I think, really 3 major ways. For one, we started this project with a third-party consultant to help us with our project management, to help us with our consulting. The project team was able to limit them, and actually now they're out of the project, was a huge savings for the city. We were able to work internally as a staff for our data conversions, where we got the data right the first time. We didn't have to use a vendor consultant to help continue to do more data conversions. And lastly, we found a way where we didn't need to use all our training. So consultants didn't need to come here on site. We didn't need to have to spend more time with us. So now our project is under budget. We can use these time and budget for other parts of the project, but I think it's a testament that the project team is really doing a really good job. Just real quick, from lessons learned, I think this tells where we are today, and as well as what we have to experience in the next 3 to 4 months or a year with UB. As I mentioned, we have 7 projects going at the same time. From a project perspective, we accepted that risk. We said that this was something that the commission and our citizens needed, and we would work on this project to completion. But what we decided to do is with limited staff and data roles. As I mentioned, is that with these 7 projects going on and a small staff, is that most of our staff was working on 3 or 4 projects at a time. The way that Tower Technologies does their project planning is within 4 8-hour time span. So what that basically means is that we would have 3 to 4 weeks of all-day meetings back to back to back. Not to mention that with our small staff, is these people still have to do our day jobs. People still have to get paid. People still have to get permits and make licensing. Still have to do payroll. So amongst all these projects, we had to find a way to get our current jobs done, but also to complete the project. What we did and what our timeline expanded is we took an agile project. So what that means is a typical project is what I call a waterfall approach. So if you're building a house, before you put on the roof, you have to have the floor, you have to have the walls, and then you put on the roof. Well, with software, we felt we didn't have to do that. Our goal was let's get software working, and at the very end, we're going to tie it all together. So by doing that is we could work on a budget for a certain period of time. We could work on AP, licensing, permitting, but get those in spans where people could still do their work day to day, but also get the project done, which expanded our timeline to where we're at now. So that's the reason why it's expanded, but it proved beneficial for the project as a whole. Our last risk we've seen is staff turnover. That happens in every project. That has been a risk. I'm gonna skip the slide just for sake of time. So we're looking at for our major milestones. So in September this year, we'll go live with time and attendance as well as payroll. So employees certainly time and how they get paid. Also employee self-service. So you can go on to your own employer portal and you can tell your check where you want money to go. You can do it on a mobile phone, but very 21st century. The next part of that would be the students doing our last parallel, making sure the data is correct. By training in September, the time attendance and payroll will go. The next part to fall in line would be online payments. This is an area where the project has some issues. For that is with taking credit cards. We've run into some issues with our vendors, but we are making progress. But by September, ideally what will happen is now we would have an online portal where a citizen can pay for not only what we first will show you with permits and licensing, but also you can pay for an alarm permit. You can pay for any other type of general bill online. So the one-stop shop for all payments. HRM will continue to go up to April of next year because benefits won't go live until that year. And then, as I mentioned, utility billing will start in August. We'll start in August and end next year. So just real fast, if you look back at the slide, what has the project team foreseen? What goals have been met thus far? One, we now have ability for accurate budgeting as well as forecasting outcomes. We can manage and track assets. For our projects, we can look at budgets, our expenditures and our revenues. Grant management as a module we have. I know Amanda's working very hard to get our grant management module up and running. We have a standardized cash flow into one single system. And we can manage all aspects of our vendor contracts. So if we have a contract, you can see invoices, how they're paid. Vendors can see it too, and they get paid efficiently and on time. We have eliminated people waste. That'll continue to go. We're more transparent in our spending as a city. We can have dashboards and printers show you some of those. We have an enterprise system that allows for collaborations. All our departments can talk together on the same data. We have workflows for approvals, and we can see where data is and who owns what. We have accurate data, a single source of truth, and ability again for time and reports. As Mr. Brake will show you for our licensing and permits, is that we have an online portal for citizens to do permits and for licensing. We have insight on statuses on where they are in the process. Our field workers can work on an iPad or an iPhone for reporting and submission. And of course, now we have training manuals, documents for people coming online. And this is just what we've seen so far, but more still to come in the next month and year. Our citizens, what have they seen? They can now see more transparency in our budget. Efficient payment for contracts, as I mentioned, they can see where their money is due. Again, I mentioned licensing, apply for permits, transparency. So hopefully everything in here in yellow, you can see everything's now seeing the benefits of what we've done in the past couple of years. And I think now we really are more of an efficient business operation because so that's the boring stuff. That's the project and the list of bells and all that stuff. What I'd like to do is pass it off to Chris Cooey and actually show you how the software works in real time.
Mayor, I believe roughly the original budget that the commission approved for this project was like $2 million.
All right, and commissioners, so, oh, it's not showing there. Hold on. 1 second.
It was not so small.
Uh,
Well, he lost his structure one time.
All right, so this is the general sort of landing page when you sign into Tyler and get to our system. You can see it's pretty basic. So there's a menu over here to get to all the different menu options that we have. You can save some favorites and some recent activities here. There's some helpful links on the side. The biggest thing that I think most of us in the city really use this page for, and I keep it up pretty much all day, you have your approvals and notifications tabs. And so if you click on these, they basically tell you what's outstanding for invoices, payments, that kind of stuff. What do you have out there that you need to approve? And then notifications. So if you do the requisition process where we get purchase orders and that kind of stuff, it'll tell me if I created a requisition. So if, in my case, Director Knopke approved my requisition, it's letting me know that he approved it and it's now able to be a purchase order that I could send out to a vendor. So I think you'll all agree this is relatively generic, and I am not a generic person. So I made my own stuff. So they call this the hub. So these are hub pages that you can make. And the hub itself is pretty dynamic. So you can kind of pick and choose every piece of information that we put into the system, more or less becomes a searchable field of data that you can use to make some dashboards or other pages that you want to. So in this case, this is what I call my AP dashboard. So as we enter contracts in, we put this is obviously the financial piece of our contracts, right? This is not necessarily the whole process, but once we have agreements that are in place, we can come in and put these financials in so that I can track, what different agreements do I have and what are my budgets on those. And then this side over here is just a little pie graph of the different vendors that I have contracts with, sorted out by how many contracts do they have. And then off to the side over here, my total number of open contracts. Well, let me go there because my little people was in the way on my screen, but the 11 open contracts and my 2 expiring contracts. So that's a nice feature that is not always right in your face with our agreements, right? A lot of times we get to where, oh, my contract expires in a week and now I have to do an extension or. So this is nice. It'll let you know, and you can set all the settings to say, I want this to tell me if it's expiring in 60 days or 90 days or whatever the case is. So, and it'll always be right there on your dashboard. The bottom part I have is project information. So for me right now, I have these all filtered to transportation itself. And that's another nice feature of these. There's filters that you can put in. There's all kinds of ways that you can show this data on the hub. And so we have about $11 million worth of project budgets out. I have 1.2 million that I've spent against those so far, and about another 3 million that I have encumbered. Those would be purchase orders, contracts, whatever else I have out there that I've essentially allocated that money to be spent already, or it's on order and waiting. Here is just a nice simple list and the title of all the projects that I have in my department. And then off to the side, budgets, encumbrances, and actuals. So basically the information that you see in these tiles, just
chart it out so that you can have a nice visual of, what are my biggest projects. I'll pick maybe one of these just to give you an idea of what Ty was saying, that we have some more diverse ways of looking at some of these. So if I click on one of these projects from my table, it takes me into the project and gives me essentially all of the information about it. So what is my project? What's my total budget? What have I spent on it? Any invoices that I've paid against it. So this one I don't have any yet, but if there's a contract that's out there relevant to this project, it would tell me that. So it's really nice and easy. You get a nice big, big picture view of what's going on with either your department or your division, whatever you have. And then it's really fast and easy to dive down into the information to get specifics. That is the general kind of idea on when it comes to the ERP side of things. So there are almost an infinite number of ways that we can use this information. So typically what I do is I come to the library and I find a page that looks like it has what I want, and then I go in and change everything to be what I really want it to be. But as you can see in here, there's just about any topic that you would want to see, whether it's related to personnel, business licensing, capital assets, purchasing, receiving. There's just about everything that you can think of relative to the way that the city does business. There's at least a starting point in here, and then you can go in and make it more specific to your own operation. That's the financial side of our software and what essentially the culmination of all this project has come to.
I think Mr. Briggs, do you want to go next?
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. So, relative to the hub, there's also pages relative to building permit. I won't go into all those and show you. I wanted to concentrate on the public facing portal and actually do a permit. It's not going to be live. It's in a train environment, but actually show you how a citizen would actually enter a permit within the system. So this is our hub page or our civic access page that the citizen will see. This is their portal. So on this portal, an applicant can do many things. They can look at a dashboard and look at their work that they've entered within the system. Check on any licenses that they've entered, any permits, any inspections that they've got coming up, any plans relative to their work as a user. They can apply, they can look at a map. There's forms and documents that we have linked within the system. We have user guides for the citizens relative to whatever topic that they need assistance on. They can run reports. A contractor can see or general public can see what, this being a train environment, there's no inspections for today, but they can see a list of inspections that are going to happen this calendar day. If they have other projects or inspections or whatnot, they can have a calendar relative to their work. They can pay invoices, and then the general public can search the portal for any permit, any plan. They can search by date range, plan type, permit type, what have you. So it helps the public actually see from a workload standpoint what we're doing. So let me actually start a permit real quick, and I'll do a quick one. We'll do. I'm just going to do it back. We'll click apply. I've already logged in. There's a whole registration process to it. I won't go through all that, but I've already logged in as myself. We'll add an address. I promise from a citizen standpoint, it's a little quicker than this. Well,
Can't do anything without entering an address. Well, I promise, this does work. Uh, well, I'm still gonna try. Well, it doesn't seem to be.
Too many people on the Wi-Fi.
Could be. So I dare do this, but we're gonna go to a live environment. And see if that does any better. Well, I'm not logged in, which will be an issue, but well, look at that, right? So we can apply, same portal, this being the live version, so I'm not gonna be able to go through all the steps. Cause I don't wanna actually have to pay for the permit that I really don't want, so. Well, it just does not like that function. But overall, I mean, this is what the citizen portal looks like. There's a whole application process. Again, it's intuitive, and I was hoping to show you because essentially I can do a permit and apply for it in about a minute. From start to finish, that's uploading documents, that's submitting it. There's a whole back office version that once it comes through the staff. So this is my hub. So Chris mentioned how intuitive the hub is. We can change this to our needs. Our department has a different look to their main hub. But from back office standpoint, staff standpoint, this is what the permit management looks like from a staff standpoint. So after the citizen enters it, this is kind of the permit information entered into the system. And you can see details, general locate or exact location of the permit. We work this through a workflow, so it's a step-by-step, so nothing's missed. Anything associated with this permit relative to contracts and fees that are due or paid will show up. All the files that are attached, so there's no keeping of paper records anymore in our filing cabinets. It's all within the system. And then once this permit gets worked and is paid for, the citizen can come in. Hopefully this part works. No, I just got rid of it, didn't I? Let me go back. So again, this is a training environment. Just for instance, these are some dog licenses that I put in for myself actually, right when we went live. But this is what the citizen sees relative to their work or their permits, and they can actually go and they can print the document. They can look at. This just happens to be a dog license, so this is a license that the citizen can print without having to come to the office. So I'm really bummed that whole process didn't work, but I do promise that it does work. So, but this is the public facing piece. So.
Thank you, sir. Wow. And Chris, Mayor, well, can you talk about some of the use numbers very briefly?
So the beauty of this, as I was sitting here listening to Chris, I was actually doing some work too, knowing probably Tim or somebody would ask. So city leadership, our leadership team kind of hates me to talk about our numbers every week, but I'm so excited about them. This just proves that your $2 million investment was well spent. And it proves and shows that we should have done this a long time ago relative to the citizen piece. So we went live with our permitting and licensing on June the 22nd or June 26th. Since that time, we have 347 civic access accounts.
How many?
347. That's less than 2 months. We've taken in through our permitting system $386,091.66 online. That's credit card payments. We've processed online and through the system 1,187 inspections. It's less than 2 months. Downstairs from business licensing, they've issued 122 licenses through the entire system. 38 right now just online. That will change as the cycle starts to change for license renewals. They haven't hit their peak yet, but right now 122. Planning wise, we're not as stellar as the permits, which I've left for last. We've taken 18 total applications through the online system. From the building permit standpoint, this is shocking. We've issued 656, we've taken 656 permits through the system. When I say the system, that's online and in the office. Of that 656, 400 of them have been applied for online without a visit to the office, without a payment through the office. That's 400 of those. So that just proves that the public was just waiting for this to come to fruition so they can use it.
Is there any way the public can comment on how easy the process is or how difficult it is?
So we do have users that email us constantly. I'm not sure about permits. I'm not directly involved in their clientele on a daily basis, but from a planning standpoint, everybody that we've interacted with have told us how valuable the system is, and with that, offering advice and suggestions on how to make it better. And the beauty of this is, some of this is hard-baked, coded stuff that we can't manipulate, but 99% of this, we can manipulate it and configure it how we want it to run. And so we can be responsive to maybe a new idea or a new ask from a citizen. So, but we have gotten very positive. We haven't gotten any negative feedback. Initially, maybe because it was a learning curve and people were not too sure how to work the system because it was new. But right now, 400 new applications in just less than 2 months. Can't be too many people that don't like it.
So, Weingarten, are you done? Yes, sir. Thank you. Any comments from the commission?
Really briefly, what on the back end, so when people are putting in permits, are we able to turn things around more quickly now, or are we able to?
So that is the design. So and I will say eventually, yes, there'll be some efficiencies once we get through the system. The problem with building efficiencies initially is there's conversion from the old system that was really bad to the new system. So there's that conversion with existing records and existing permits. So there's not so much efficiency now, but as we totally divest yourselves of tracking or totally 100% in civic access and Thailand. I mean, just for instance, I can work a permit or a review upstairs in my office. Once it comes in, we'll get notifications immediately and we can review it and approve it immediately. We've got a window that we can do it. We've got a deadline, but typically we'll do it right when the notification comes. So.
Do you have any public comments on this?
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, if I may. Director Brink, this is excellent. Thank you very much. I'm excited to see and hear the numbers that you've provided, and I'd hope to be able to hear periodic updates on the numbers that you're seeing in terms of number of permits, revenue, folks that we've been able to help, because I think this is really exciting, as well as I'm looking forward to online bill payment as well. Yeah, if you're able to provide those updates periodically, that would be excellent. Or if that'd be something you could provide, that'd be great. Thank you.
Clerk, do you have any public comments?
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment online.
Okay, is there anyone from the public wishes to address the commission? Clerk, anyone on it?
Mr. Mayor, there appears to be no public comment.
Final comments? Okay. Nothing else? This meeting is adjourned.